Starting off with Colorado and Oregon, we saw so much smack talk heading into the weekend, and Oregon released an awesome video yesterday showing basically Oregon's behind the scenes. Colorado was, walking all over the O. They were talking smack to Oregon the entire time, but Oregon was dialed in. The talk is for Hollywood, basically, is what the coach was saying, and we're gonna talk with our pads. So, what did you guys see in that Oregon game?
Yeah, what I saw was a team that is better on three sides of the ball. They're better special teams. They're better offensively. They're better defensively. Dion, I'm not going to downplay what Dion's done. He's taken a team that won one game last year. He's already won three. Their over/under was 3.5. I do think they're going to be right around bowl eligible. I think they will be a bowl eligible team. But it's a lot easier right now to build through the transfer portal in your skill position. It's not that easy to build through the transfer portal in the offensive line room and in the defensive line room, specifically the offensive line room, because it takes guys multiple years before they are ready to truly play that offensive line position. You have to be able to, carry a certain weight, and you have to be able to move fluidly while you carry that weight. A lot of these guys, when they come out of high school, either they're 330 pounds, but they're a bad 330 pounds. So they've got fat, and they've got, they're not able to move the way they need to. Or they're 260 pounds, and they might have, the body fat percentage that you need, but they're at 260. To play that position, at that level, you got to be 315, 330. And those things take time. It takes offensive linemen 2-3 years before they are truly ready to go. And I do think that right now he's built 75% of a good football team. He needs those offensive and defensive linemen, and that's where you saw Oregon win this football game. Oregon was able to get after the passer, get after Shedeur with 3 and 4 guys. They finished the day with 7 sacks. Jordan Birch was an absolute monster. Dude had 2 sacks, was winning one-on-one matchups all over the place. And when you're rushing 3 to 4 guys and you can drop 7 to 8 guys back in coverage, you are going to win a lot of football games. You don't even have to have a really good defensive secondary, which Oregon does have a pretty good one. If you're dropping 7-8 guys into coverage and you're still getting after the quarterback in 3 to 4 seconds, you're going to win a lot of football games, and that's where Oregon took advantage. They knew defensively they could win their one-on-one matchups on the D-line against that offensive line. And then at that point, it was over. There was nothing that Colorado was going to do to work offensively against this Oregon team.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest middle fingers or FUs that Oregon could give was running that fake punt in the first half.
Oh, man.
I mean, I don't think there's a bigger middle finger from coach to coach, sideline to sideline that you can make than running, what was it, on their own 17?
From their own 17.
Yeah.
And it was on their side of the field, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Bucky Irving did anything he wanted on the ground. And Will hit the nail on the head. I mean, when you look at the trenches, Colorado is nowhere close to being sufficiently ready to battle with the big boys. Hey, let's not take anything away from what Dion's been able to do. Like it's been a pretty remarkable turnaround from a 1-11 team that was coached under Carl Durrell, that was just moving in the wrong direction. Ignited fire. They've obviously been the most watched team. I think that's going to taper down here if USC beats the brakes off them this weekend, which, likely is going to happen. We've got four Pac-12 games this Saturday. And I don't know if there's a game on Friday night too. Yeah, Utah and Oregon State.
Yeah.
So this weekend. And out of the 4, it's a combined 78.5 point margin for the favorites. So, pretty much averaging 20 points per game for the favored team. Obviously, the Utah and Oregon State game is going to be close. It's within 3.5, but all other 3 games are predicted to be blowouts. But I think the national media and a lot of people are going to start to taper off of Colorado. I still think they're a 6, maybe ceiling 7-8 win team. But they just don't have the physicality in the trenches to keep up with these physical, hard-nosed teams like the Oregon States, the Oregons, the Washingtons of the Pac-12 conference. And, it's funny, Dan Lanning It was a hell of a pregame speech. Let's be
It was
honest.
a perfect
That was awesome.
pregame speech.
But it's
Perfect.
also generating a ton of clicks as well.
Mhm.
The team that has over 1,000 uniform combinations is rooted in substance. It's funny to hear, but I do think Oregon, made it known. They're one of the top 3 teams in the Pac-12 going forward, and it's obviously setting up that collision course in a few weeks here with UW.
Right. Well, and I want to touch on that punt like you talked about, Dylan. I actually think that's a check with me call. So what you're looking at on that punt and what Casey Rogers, who ended up taking that punt, is looking for is they were looking for a certain formation in that punt return by Colorado into the boundary. When you watch the replay, there are 3 guys on the left side. As soon as the ball is snapped, Colorado has those guys drop into their blocking spots. So they are not watching to see if the punter punted the ball off at all. So what Oregon had done is they had said, okay, when we're punting into the boundary, when we're punting to this spot, we have seen them drop back into coverage. They're not even going to see Casey. Casey's going to call whatever the fake call is. He's going to take the ball and he's going to go. When you watch that play, Casey's got 2 lead blockers, the other 2 shield guys in that punt formation. They don't touch a guy until 7 yards downfield. At that point, he already has the first down. So that's Oregon's coaches going in and out coaching Colorado's guys and saying, hey, we know that they like to drop back. They want to set up a return. They're not a punt block team. When we get them into this formation in this spot, we can do this play. Casey does it. He goes out, gets the first down. They drive down, they score, and effectively they end the game at that point because that's still the first quarter.
Yeah.
It's 13-0. So that's just out scheming and then out executing at a point of attack by Oregon. The other big thing that I think we all need to look at is Oregon had 3 rushers individually that outgained Colorado's rushing attack as a whole. Colorado had 40 yards. Noah Whittington, who left the game hurt, had 45. James had over 50, and Bucky had 84. You were running the ball down Colorado's throat, and I love it in the video that Oregon released. They've got Shiloh Sanders being like, you guys are little, you guys are small, and then
Why
Bucky
are you
just
so little?
him. Right. And Shiloh's a good player. He's a good
player.
quality defensive back. Very, very good. But, this is what Colorado does. They try to fire themselves up. They build themselves up in this way. They're a type of team and a bunch of players where they have to talk a bunch of trash to get themselves ready to go. This Oregon team seemed to be like that slow simmer. Hey, we're going to let it build. You want to trash our O? We don't care. You're going to yell. And then they kept doing that talk with their pads, talk with our pads, talk with our pads. It couldn't have been a more perfect pregame speech. Yeah. Dan Lanning had me ready to run through a wall. And I get it. It's a little bit funny that they've got all the different uniform combinations. I think they were wearing the cleats that it changed based on the body temperature.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right. It's a little bit ironic, but at the same time, like that's not stuff that Dan Lanning introduced. That's stuff that Chip Kelly and Bellotti introduced, and he very much seems much more old school. Also, it's just a great line. Like they play for clicks, we play for wins.
Yeah.
I loved every part of it.
Yeah, first time hearing it, I listened to it 3 straight times, and it's like it's a great line that Johnny Knoxville always said. It's like in terms of Colorado here, you're letting that bulldog mouth get in front of that puppy dog bite, and that's what we saw over the weekend. So also when it in terms of from a Coug side of things, and watching what Cameron Ward's done this year. And for all the media exposure to just be all over Colorado and Shadur Sanders, it's just been tiring for certain fan bases.
For sure.
In the Pac-12, I'm sure it's same thing with Oregon as well before this game, this past week. So Travis Hunter was not going to make a difference. We knew that from.
It's not a 35-point liver. I don't care what Josina Anderson says on Twitter.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was something along the lines of what would he have said if Travis Hunter was in? It's like probably the same thing.
And I saw Travis Hunter was texting with Dion saying, I am playing this week. And Dion said, no, your future is brighter than mine. Like, you need to get healthy.
Hey, you know what? Dion, and here's where I'm going to give credit to Dion, and I get it. It's annoying. It's all you've seen. But at the same time, he's clearly drummed up the attention that he deserved, right? Like, if you are going out, it doesn't matter if you are, at the end of the day, a 6-win team or a 10-win team. Dion has driven eyeballs to him. whether that's love watching it or hate watching it. The biggest game, the most watched football game nationally was that Oregon-Colorado blowout. That beat Oregon State, Washington State. That beat Florida State, Clemson. That beat Notre Dame, Ohio State in prime time, right? So whatever Deion is doing, it is working, and he is getting good recruits. Don't get me twisted here. He has great recruits, and I do think that they coach them fairly well. If I'm a high school kid, or if I'm a kid going into the transfer portal, yes, I want to go play with Deion. I'm going to get coached by a head coach that's a Hall of Famer. He's brought in T.O. to help out with wide receivers, and he's going to bring in Warren Sapp to help out with D linemen. You can't tell me that he's not going to bring in more Hall of Famers to coach in different spots. I want to learn from those guys. Those are the guys I want to be around. The attention, the atmosphere. Guys are going crazy. You've got The Rock partying with you. You've got Lil Wayne doing a concert. Those are big deals to recruits, and they're going to want to see that. But also, when you look at what Oregon did, Oregon landed a 5-star defensive end commitment at that game. Oregon brought in more 4- and 5-star recruits to that football game than they have in any other recruiting weekend this year for game visits. That's huge. That's Oregon understanding, hey, this is an extra moment. This is an extra opportunity to have our guys bring in big name recruits, show them what kind of atmosphere Autzen can have, show them what it's like to play big name football, and then to capitalize and beat the brakes off of Colorado and do it in a way that was physical and aggressive, and it wasn't a fluke. You play that game 10 times out of 10, they win that football game. And to do that with all those recruits there, you can't tell me that's not going to build up the recruits and bring in more 5- and 4-stars. You can't tell me that when 5- and 4-star recruits see Dan Lanning going out there saying, we're going to talk with our pads, we're going to fight, that type of pregame speech, that brings me in and makes me want to play for him. So at the end of the day, I do know that this was a loss for Colorado, but I think in a way it's a moral victory because you are going to bring in big name recruits and they're going to want to come and play for Coach Prime. But for Oregon, it's a win in 2 different fields. You won on the field. You won this year. But you also won some future battles where guys are seeing, hey, that Oregon team, they can play, and I want to go play for Coach Lanning.
Couple notes. I mean, that media, that video, they had that out in like a day. They came into that weekend prepared, ready to go. They're like, we're gonna make a movie out of this thing, and that was
Colorado players went directly into Oregon's video crew. It wasn't like they were just saying it. They were directly going into Oregon's video crew. Oregon didn't have to do anything. They just pressed play, record, and there it was.
It was beautiful.
Honestly, too, in terms of Deion, it's like, okay, hey, a lot of people are questioning his coaching. I mean, he's got the number 1 5-star recruit, Cormani McClain. And, he hasn't touched the field because Deion said that he's just, not able to get himself on the field. He had the quote, hey, study, what are the things that Cormani needs to do to get on the field? Study and prepare, be on time for meetings, show up to the damn meetings. So is there a lot of accountability also, though, with Deion? You've got players not showing up to meetings? I mean, that's what that quote tells me.
They're not playing.
Yeah.
Seems like accountability to me. Like Travis Hunter, he's the number 1 athlete. When he came in, he's getting to play all these positions. From everything that I hear about him, he's at every meeting. He's working his butt off. I think it's different. I think what you're going to see out of Deion is much more what a player-led coach would be, but to the umpth degree, right? I want it to work. I think Deion being successful is the best thing for college football because he brings in the casual eyes. He brings in, your sister, your mom, your girlfriend, the girl at Starbucks. They start paying attention to Colorado because they hear all this stuff about Deion, primetime. I usually judge if a story's a big deal based on if my grandma texts me about it. This weekend, I got 2 texts from my grandma. 1, man, Oregon kicked the crap out of Deion. I didn't see that coming. 2, did you see Taylor Swift at the Kansas City Chiefs game? So, when you see those types of texts and they're coming from people who aren't big name fans, they're not, diehard football people, that's a good thing for sports. And I think that's what Deion brings. You know what? I do think he's a good coach. I really do. I think he's smart and I think he's calculated. Time is going to tell. But if he's there at Colorado for 3-4 years, I do agree with him this is the time to get him now. Because once he starts getting those offensive linemen and you start mixing them with the recruits that he's getting, it wasn't a fluke he got Travis Hunter. I mean, you can't really say it was a fluke that he got his kids, but it's not a fluke that he got that Weaver kid. You know, I think he could build something. It's just, will he stay there long enough?
Oregon had 35 minutes of possession over Colorado's 25. They had 522 total yards over Colorado's 199. What's surprising is that Colorado didn't have any turnovers. You know, even with all that pressure, they managed to not turn the ball over. Oregon had first downs to Colorado's 13.
Yeah, and Shedur's been hit already over 50 times this season.
It's 60 times. Yeah.
60.
It's insane. I'm going to be surprised if he makes it to week 10 at this rate, with the schedule getting much tougher. And to me, Pac-12 is the top conference. The irony in it this year.
Oh, it's not close.
Right. It's not close right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it just was a beatdown